This class is presented in voice and text, and there are some visual aids I will put on the texture board. You can left-click on the Firestorm class notes and first aid kit box over my left shoulder to get class notes for all of our classes, as well as a few other goodies. The class notes get updated semi-regularly, so you may want to grab a fresh copy. The text on the box will show the current date. If you're having trouble reading the text from the note card reader, open Preferences, go to the Colors tab, and if you have it, the Chat Color sub-tab, and change the color for Objects to something more legible for you. To adjust voice volumes, go to the COM menu and click on Nearby Voice to open the Nearby Voice panel. From there, adjust individual volumes by slider. Now, we like to point out that all menus and submenus will detach and stay open if you click on the double lines at the very top of the menu. Makes it much simpler to check or uncheck options, as well as to remember and uncheck anything you happen to click on either by mistake or just to see what it does. I'm guilty of both. So welcome to the Firestorm Menus Set 2 class. This is based on our 4.6.5 release. If you're on an older release, that's okay. You may not see some of the things I mention. And we're going to cover the Advanced and Develop menus. If you have questions about the topic we're on, please put them in nearby chat. Text is best during the class, and we'll answer as soon as we can. Please wait until after the class to ask any off-topic questions. I hold an open question and answer after all of our classes. We strongly suggest that you detach any of these menus that you're going to play in. The majority of the items in these menus that the average user needs have been moved to other places in the user interface to make them more easily accessible. Please be very careful in these two menus as they contain items that will cause you problems, which may require you wipe all your settings or even make you crash. So we're going to start in the Advanced menu. Please use with caution. First is Rebake Textures, which you can use Control-Alt-R to enable. This is to force an appearance update. It's also in the Avatar menu under Avatar Health. Set UI size to default. This will reset your user interface to the default size. That's also in Preferences. Under User Interface, it's the UI scaling slider. Set window size. This allows you to set the window size. There are several predefined values, but you can also just drag the edge of the window to make it whatever size you want. Limit select distance. This will limit your select distance to whatever value you have set in Preferences, Firestorm, Build 2. The default is 128 meters. Disable camera constraints. This allows you to zoom out more and zoom in more. High-res snapshots. This will enable high-resolution snapshots. Quiet snapshots. This will disable the snapshot animation and the noise that it makes. Performance Tools opens the Performance Tools submenu. In there, you can enable the lag meter, which is also available in the Avatar menu under Avatar Health. The Statistics bar, or Control-Shift-1. This is a great tool for troubleshooting if you know what to look for. It's also available as a toolbar button. We also talk about it in our basic troubleshooting class. So render weight for avatars. This is also in the Avatar menu under Avatar Health. And it shows basically how much rendering demand each avatar has on your viewer. Highlighting and visibility. This opens the highlighting and visibility submenu. In there you can choose Cheesy Bacon, hide particles or Control-Alt-Shift equals, hide selected, highlight transparent or Control-Alt-T, show mouse look crosshairs, hover tips. This is also in preferences, user interface, general at the very top. Rendering types will open up the rendering types submenu. In there you can enable or disable rendering for simple, alpha, tree, avatars, surface patch, sky, water, ground, volume, grass, clouds, particles, and bump. All of these should be checked by default. Unchecking some will lower the amount of local lag that you experience. Just be sure to recheck them or you won't be able to see some things. For example, if you click on simple, you'll see that everything that's in the simple category disappears. And your frame rate might go up too. You want to click it again to re-enable. Rendering features. This will open the rendering features submenu. In there you have UI, selected, highlighted, dynamic textures, foot shadows, fog, test FR info, and flexible objects. All of those should be checked by default. Now, some Macs and some laptop users may need to add the FN or function key to that combination, as in Control-Alt function F1 or function Control-Alt F1. You want to check your operating system help files for the correct sequence. Now, I have to warn you here, if you disable the user interface, the only way to get it back is via that keyboard shortcut, Control-Alt-F1, or by relogging. So if your system has that keyboard shortcut assigned and you disable the user interface, the only way to get it back is to relog. Media Stream Backup. This allows you to export and import your media filter list. Use plugin read thread. This uses a separate thread to read incoming messages from plugins. In theory, this should give you a slight performance increase if you have a multi-core processor and are using the internal browser for playing QuickTime videos and so forth. Clear group cache pretty much does what it says. It's actually cleared anyway when you log out, and if you click the refresh button in a group profile. Mouse smoothing. This should help smooth mouse movements. Release keys. This will detach or unseat you from scripted objects which affect your avatar's movement controls. The bridge has permission to control you for some of its functions. So if you click release keys, the bridge will detach. Shortcuts opens up the shortcuts submenu. Those shortcuts are upload image for 10 lindens, search, show the advanced menu, which is kind of funny that the shortcut to open the advanced menu is in the advanced menu. Double-click teleport, always run, fly, close the window in focus, close all windows, snapshot to disk, mouse look, joystick fly cam, reset view, reset camera angles, is more powerful, look at last chatter, zoom in, zoom default, and zoom out. Now these last three should be remembered as they are the best way to work on small prims and for resetting your camera. Fly override. This allows flight in a no-fly area. This is not recommended and it is not persistent across logins. We do strongly recommend that you honor the settings that the region owner or parcel owner has set and don't fly where you're not permitted. Restrained Lev API. This enables or disables RLV. This is also in Preferences, Firestorm, General Sub-tab, Allow Remote Scripted Viewer Controls. Show Debug Settings. This opens the Debug menu window. Use this with caution as well, because if you make a change in the debug settings, we want you to write them down so that you can remember what you changed. We won't know what you changed. Our most common solution to a problem with a debug settings change is to wipe your settings. You don't want to do that. Show Develop menu, Control-Alt-Q. This shows your or hides the Develop menu on the menu bar. If you don't have that showing, you can enable it now. There's one good reason to have it enabled. Plenty of reasons not to ever open it. So are there any questions on the Advanced menu? The statistics bar shows a lot of mostly server statistics. It'll show you your viewer frame rate, the amount of network bandwidth you use, packet loss, ping sim performance. It'll show server frame rates. It'll show scripts being used, the time they're taking up. A lot of information that can help you better understand what might be causing a problem for you, mostly like a lag problem. You're welcome. We talk about it a little bit more in our basic troubleshooting class. There is also a wiki page on the Second Life wiki, and I don't have that link handy. But if you click the little question mark at the top of the statistics bar, that'll show you our wiki page on it. The lag meter is actually different than what you see up at the very top right. This is the 3-button meter that will generalize whether you're having client lag, network lag, or server lag. The lag meter at the very top right is more like a performance meter. It shows you how much bandwidth you're using instantaneously, and it shows any packet loss instantaneously. The side effects are mostly visual. If you make the user interface too small, then it'll be hard to read things. If you make it too large, then the text may not fit in some of the boxes. Yeah, for the most part it is. Okay, let's hit the Develop menu. Now we're only going to focus on a few items in here because the rest of it will never be needed by the average user. It's the Developers menu. Some of the keyboard shortcuts in here do require the Develop menu be enabled to work, and that's why I suggested you have it enabled. Consoles opens up the Consoles submenu. Most of these are really of no use to the average user. There's Texture Console, Debug Console, Notifications Console, Fast Timers, Scene Statistics, and the Region Debug Console. Those all open up a console or a window on your screen showing you more information. Then there's Region Info to the Debug Console, Group Info to Debug Console, and Capabilities to Debug Console. These send all that information onto the Debug Console. Camera, Wind, and Field of View, these show the text at the bottom right with a little information about each one. And Badge is on. It doesn't matter. You can press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-H to see exactly what it does. Show Info opens the Show Info submenu. Now, most of these will add text to the bottom right side of your user interface showing the appropriate information. Show Time. This will show how long a viewer has been running, how much time was spent fetching textures, and the current frame rate. Show Upload Cost. This is on by default. Show Texture Info. Show Render Info. Show Matrices. Show Color Under Cursor. A lot of folks use this to match up a skin color to a prim color, like for feet. This is also available in our Quick Preferences by default. Show Memory. Show Private Mem Info. Show Updates to Objects. This will show colored dots rising up from the objects that are updating. You can see that wiki page to learn what the colors mean. Basically, if you see a lot of dots rising from some object, then that object may be causing lag. Then there's the Force and Error window that opens the Force and Error submenu. You really don't want to force an error, because it does just that. It'll make you crash. Render Tests opens up the Render Tests submenu. Many of those will make you crash. Now, these two are really only good for developers. And there's the Render Metadata. This opens the Render Metadata submenu. In there you'll find bounding boxes. Well, developer will want to crash so that they can see what happens during the crash, so they can try to trap it and maybe prevent it. So bounding boxes can be useful in finding objects because everything in SL has a bounding box. There's normals, octree, shadow frustra, physics shapes, occlusion, render batches, update type, texture animation, texture priority, texture area, face area, LOD information, the build queue, lights, your collision skeleton, raycast, wind vector, render complexity, attachment bytes, sculpt, texture size, and texture density, which should be left at none. In rendering, this opens the rendering submenu. In there you will find axes, tangent basis, selected texture info basis, wireframe, which can be handy when you're dealing with unrendered or unresed prims related to interest list issues. object-to-object occlusion, advanced lighting model. This is also available in Preferences, Graphics, General subtab. Shadows from sun, moon, and projectors. This is also in Preferences, Graphics, General. SAO and smooth shadowing. This is also called ambient occlusion, and it's also available in Preferences, Graphics, General. Debug GL, debug pipeline, automatic alpha masks, deferred. This is in Preferences, Graphics, Rendering. And automatic alpha masks, non-deferred. This is also in Preferences, Graphics, Rendering. And we have animation textures, disable textures, which you probably don't want to do, and full res textures, which is dangerous. If you like degraded performance and crashing, feel free to enable this. Texture Atlas, which is experimental. Render attached lights. This is useful for turning off face lights without turning off all lights. And render attached particles. It's good for turning off bling without turning off all particles. And hover glow objects. Network opens up the Network submenu. The camera. World opens the World submenu. Recorder opens up the Recorder submenu. You can use this to record avatar movement, but not audio or video. World opens up the World submenu, and Dump Region Object Cache is in there. This can help sometimes with some graphical glitches by forcing the viewer to reload the object cache. UI opens the UI submenu. XUI opens the XUI submenu. It's mostly useful for working on the user interface. Avatar opens up the Avatar submenu. HTTP textures. This will control whether textures are fetched using HTTP to the texture servers or UDP via the simulator. Whether you need this on or not, we don't know. It's also available in Preferences, Graphics, Hardware settings. And HTTP inventory. This controls whether inventory is fetched using HTTP, which is recommended, or UDP, which is not recommended. Compress images. This lets you compress files on your computer. Enable visual leak detector. My guess is this puts soapy bubbles on the screen. Output debug mini dump. Console window on next run. This actually opens up a console window on your next login. Now, if you enable this and then try to close that console window, the viewer will also close. So you want to uncheck this and then relog, and you should be fine. Set logging level. This allows you to select the level of logging the viewer is going to use. Now, don't change this because unless we ask you to, because it can have a huge and adverse effect on performance. I made mine spend more time writing to the log than doing anything else. So it's pretty nasty. And then there's request to admin status, leave admin status, and show admin menu. Now, if you need admin status, you already know what these do. Any questions on the develop menu? Any questions on anything I've covered today? Are you all ready for the test? HUDs would be an attachment instead of the user interface. So you would edit the HUD the same way you would edit any other object. On the user interface would be like changing positions of buttons and things in menus, and moving the tabs in your conversations over to the right side or something like that. That would be working on the user interface. Need a lot of pain reliever to do that. So thank you for being here. Listening to me rant on about the advanced and developed menus. And thank you on behalf of the entire team for using our viewer. It's awesome that you use it, and you guys are the reason our viewer is as popular as it is. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're welcome. And it's, my personal opinion is that it's the best because our users helped us make it the best. The developers could put in what they want, but they have put a lot of things in that people have asked for. And that's what makes it best. So we're at open Q&A if you've got any questions at all. On topic, off topic, in SL, outside SL. You can ask your questions.